You're sitting in the dealership parking lot, staring at the window sticker on a basic Honda Accord. Not the luxury trim, not the sports package, just the standard model that looks like every other sedan on the highway. The price reads $32,000. You do the mental math on what you make per year and something doesn't add up. This is supposed to be the sensible choice, the responsible adult car, and yet the monthly payment they're quoting you is more than your rent was in college. And you look around the lot and wonder who exactly is buying all these vehicles, because it sure doesn't feel like you're one of the people who can actually afford them. My name is Nick, and we're about to do something car dealerships absolutely hate. We're going to calculate who can legitimately afford a new car in 2026. Not who can technically get approved for the loan, not who can squeeze the payment into their budget if they stop eating lunch, but who can actually buy a car without turning their financial life into a slow motion disaster. Because there's an enormous gap between qualifying for an auto loan and being able to afford the vehicle without regretting it every single month for the next 6 years. Let's start with the uncomfortable baseline. The average new car price in America right now is hovering around $48,000. That's not a luxury vehicle, that's the average. A basic pickup truck is $50,000. A mid-size SUV that every suburban family apparently needs is $45,000. Even the cheapest new cars on the market, the ones that feel like punishment to drive, start at $25,000 before you add a single option. Meanwhile, the median household income in the United States is roughly $75,000. We're asking people to spend between half and 2/3 of their annual gross income on a depreciating asset that loses value the second it leaves the lot. If that ratio sounds completely insane to you, congratulations, you're paying attention. But everyone keeps telling you it's normal. The finance manager says you're approved, your parents bought new cars their whole lives. Every commercial during football season shows regular people driving brand new vehicles like it's no big deal. So what's the problem? The problem is that everyone is lying to you about what affordable actually means. The old rule of thumb was that you shouldn't spend more than 20% of your gross monthly income on all vehicle expenses combined. That includes your payment, insurance, gas, and maintenance. Let's run that calculation. If you're making $75,000 a year, that's $6,250 per month gross. 20% of that is $1,250. That's your total monthly vehicle budget for everything. Now let's see what actually happens when you buy that $48,000 average new car. Most people put down between 0 and 10% these days because nobody has $5,000 just sitting around. Let's be generous and say you scrape together $3,000 for a down payment. You're financing $45,000. Current auto loan rates for decent credit are sitting somewhere between 7% and 9%. Let's split the difference and use 8% on a 6-year loan, which is now the average loan term, because that's the only way to make the payments look manageable. Your monthly payment is going to be around $789. That's just principal and interest. That number doesn't include a single other thing you need to actually drive the car. Let's add insurance. If you're financing a new vehicle, the bank requires comprehensive and collision coverage. Depending on where you live and your driving record, you're looking at anywhere from $150 to $300 per month. We'll use $200 to be conservative, then there's gas. The average American drives about 13,000 miles per year. If your car gets 30 miles per gallon, which is optimistic, and gas costs $3.50 per gallon, you're spending roughly $1,500 a year on fuel, which works out to $125 per month. Then there's maintenance. New cars need less maintenance than used cars, but they still need oil changes, tire rotations, and eventually new tires, brakes, and batteries. Budget about $100 per month to be safe. Some months it's $0, other months it's $800 for a new set of tires, so it averages out. Now let's add this up. Car payment, $789, insurance, $200, gas, $125, maintenance, $100. Your total monthly car cost is $1,214. Remember that 20% guideline? You're already at $1,214 out of your $1,250 budget, and we haven't even talked about registration fees, parking costs, or the fact that you might occasionally need to replace something that breaks. But here's where it gets really fun. That 20% rule assumes you have zero other debt. No student loans, no credit cards, nothing. In reality, the average American has about $6,000 in credit card debt at 22% interest, which costs them around $200 per month just to tread water. Many have student loans, adding another $200 to $400 per month. Suddenly, that car payment isn't happening in isolation. It's competing with every other financial obligation in your life. So let's reverse engineer this properly. If you're spending $1,214 per month on a car, and that represents 20% of your gross monthly income, you need to be making roughly $71,500 per year. And that's assuming you have zero other debt payments eating into your budget. If we use a more realistic scenario where people have some debt, you probably need to be making $85,000 to $90,000 per year to truly afford that average price new car without financial gymnastics. Only about 35% of American households make $85,000 or more, which means roughly 65% of American households cannot comfortably afford the average new car under any reasonable financial standard. This is an opinion. This is just math being cruel. Yet somehow, people keep buying these cars. Dealerships keep selling them. Banks keep approving the loans. Who are these people, and what do their actual lives look like when they're making this work? Let me show you what that actually looks like when you run the numbers on a real household trying to make this work. Meet a household we'll call the Martinez family. Two working professionals pulling in a combined $95,000 a year. That puts them above the median, solidly middle class. They should be comfortable, right? They just bought that $47,000 SUV because they needed something reliable for the kids. Let's watch what happens to their budget. First, their gross income of $95,000 sounds impressive until reality shows up. After federal taxes, state taxes, FICA, and maybe a modest 401k contribution because they're trying to be responsible, they're taking home around $5,800 per month. That's their actual money to live on. Now, subtract that $1,214 monthly car cost we calculated, they're left with $4,586 for literally everything else in their lives. Mortgage or rent, because they still need somewhere to sleep. Let's say they're renting a modest 3-bedroom apartment because buying was too expensive. There goes $1,800. 2 car payments? Wait, did I mention they needed 2 cars because both of them work? The second car is older, financed at a higher rate because their credit took a hit last year. That's another $450. Groceries for a family of 4 that's trying to eat reasonably healthy, $900 if they're careful and never waste anything. Student loans because they needed those degrees to get the jobs that qualified them for the car loans, $400. Health insurance premiums that their employers don't fully cover, $350. Childcare for 2 kids because both parents work, $1,200. Utilities for the apartment, electricity, water, internet, phones, $300. We're now at negative $814. They're literally underwater before we've touched clothing, school supplies, kids' activities, medical copays, or the psychological need to occasionally leave the house and pretend they have a life. Savings? Emergency fund? Retirement beyond that tiny 401k? Absolutely not happening. This household is spending over 40% of their take-home pay just on transportation and housing. They're not irresponsible people. They're not buying jet skis or taking European vacations. They bought one new car because the old one died and they needed to get to work. They're just trying to exist. Here's what that actually feels like day to day. It feels like checking your bank account before buying milk. It feels like saying no to your kid's field trip because that $25 might be needed if something breaks. It feels like lying awake at 3 in the morning doing mental math about whether you can afford new brakes this month or if you need to push it to next month and just pray nothing bad happens. It feels like being one unexpected expense away from disaster at all times. The alternator goes out. That's $600 you don't have. Someone rear ends you and your deductible is $1,000. You're putting it on a credit card. Your kid gets sick and needs antibiotics not covered by insurance. You're choosing between medication and groceries. This is the reality for households earning $95,000 trying to own a $47,000 car. Now imagine what it looks like for the household making $75,000 or $60,000, or, God forbid, the actual median income of $74,000. At median income, buying the average new car isn't tight. It's not stretching, it's financial fantasy. It's mathematically impossible without either massive external help or accepting a level of risk that would make a tightrope walker nervous. But here's what makes this truly insidious. The car market doesn't care about these numbers. Dealerships sell cars at $47,000 because that's what people will sign for. Banks approve buyers at debt to income ratios that are technically legal but functionally insane. Nobody in the transaction has an incentive to tell you that you're about to financially drown yourself. The salesman makes commission on the sale. The finance manager makes commission on the loan. The bank makes money on 6 years of interest payments. The insurance company makes money on your policy. Nobody in that building makes money when you walk away saying, "No thanks, this doesn't work for me." So people sign. They convince themselves it'll be fine. Maybe they're betting on a future raise that hasn't materialized yet. Maybe they're planning to pick up overtime. Maybe they're just really, really tired of driving a car that makes weird noises and smells like something died in the vents. They drive off the lot feeling successful. Month 1, they make the payment. It's tight, but they did it. Month 2, same thing. They're cutting back on eating out, canceling subscriptions, but they're managing. Then month 4, their other car needs new tires. Like that's $700 they didn't budget for because every dollar is already allocated to keeping both cars running. Month 7, their kid needs braces. The orthodontist wants $4,000. They finance it like it's a car. Month 9, their hours get cut at work. Suddenly they're $400 short every month. That emergency fund they were supposed to build, it never happened because there was nothing left to save. This is the reality of being car poor. You own a car technically, though the bank really owns it for the next 6 years, but you can't afford to maintain it properly. You definitely can't afford the life you thought the car would give you. Every unexpected expense becomes a crisis. Every financial decision is made through the lens of, can we still make the car payment? You become a prisoner in your own vehicle, working to pay for transportation you're too stressed to enjoy. And here's the really twisted part. Because cars have become so unaffordable, we've normalized this misery. We've rebranded financial desperation as adulting. Oh, you're car poor? Welcome to modern life. Can't afford to fix the check engine light for 3 months? That's just being resourceful. Eating ramen because all your money went to the car payment? You're building credit. It's like we've collectively agreed to pretend that struggling to afford basic transportation is somehow a rite of passage rather than a symptom of a broken system. The math is screaming at you, but culture keeps whispering that you should buy anyway. Your parents bought a new car at your age. Never mind that their car cost 8 months of salary and yours cost 18 months of yours. Your coworkers are driving nice cars. Never mind that you have no idea what their actual financial situation looks like or whether they're drowning behind their leather-wrapped steering wheel. Society tells you that an old car is embarrassing. Never mind that being unable to afford your car payment is also embarrassing, just with extra steps and worse consequences. So let me give you permission to do something radical. You can choose not to play this game. You can look at the average new car price, run the real numbers, and decide that it's not worth sacrificing your financial stability, your mental health, and your ability to build actual wealth. You can buy used. You can drive something boring and reliable. You can keep your current car running for another year while you save cash. You can acknowledge that the American dream of car ownership has been warped into something unrecognizable and possibly unattainable for anyone making less than 6 figures. And that's not your fault, because here's what actually builds wealth. It's not owning a car you can barely afford. It's having margin in your budget. It's being able to invest consistently. It's not having to choose between fixing your transmission and contributing to your retirement account. It's sleeping at night without anxiety about how you'll cover next month's payment. Real wealth is freedom, not equity you can't access because you're trapped by the asset that's supposed to be making your life better. The auto industry has done an incredible job convincing people that new cars are always the right move, that financing is always smarter than saving, that you should stretch as far as possible because you deserve it, but they're selling you a product. They profit when you sign, not when you make smart decisions. The dealership makes money on the markup. The finance company makes money on your 72-month loan. The insurance company makes money on your comprehensive coverage. Nobody in that equation makes money when you say, "No thanks, this doesn't work for me." If you're sitting there right now feeling priced out, feeling like reliable transportation is slipping away, feeling like you're failing at some fundamental adult milestone, I need you to understand something. You're not failing. The system is failing you. Car prices have outpaced wage growth so dramatically that what was normal and achievable for previous generations is now a luxury item for most people. A $47,000 car is not affordable transportation. It's not reasonable on a median income. It's not something you should stretch for unless you genuinely have the income to support it without financial acrobatics. Run your real numbers, factor in all the costs, be honest about your income stability, and if the math doesn't work, walk away. There is no shame in saying, "This doesn't make sense for me right now." There is no trophy for buying a car that makes you miserable. The real win is making decisions based on reality rather than social pressure, on math rather than emotion, on your actual financial situation rather than what you wish it could be. That's how you avoid becoming another cautionary tale about the true cost of that shiny new car. Look, I'm not telling you to give up on car ownership forever or ride a bike to work in a snowstorm. I'm telling you to give up on the delusion that a $47,000 car is somehow within reach just because a dealership will let you sign the papers. Those are two catastrophically different things. The bank's willingness to approve you and your ability to actually live a life are not the same calculation. Maybe in 3 years your income doubles. Maybe the used car market stabilizes and you can get something reliable for $20,000 cash. Maybe autonomous vehicles become real and you stop needing a car altogether. But right now, today, with current prices and current incomes, this math is broken for most people. And pretending otherwise doesn't make you optimistic. It makes you a future statistic in someone else's video about the repossession crisis. Stop looking at what you qualify for and start looking at what you can genuinely afford without turning your life into a financial tightrope act. Find the number where you can make the payment. Handle the maintenance, save for emergencies, invest for retirement, and still occasionally remember what it feels like to not be stressed about money. For most people, that number is nowhere near $47,000, and that's completely fine. You're not less successful because you're being realistic. You're not failing at adulthood because you refuse to financially drown yourself for heated seats. You're just doing math that apparently nobody else wants to do. The car market will keep pretending these prices make sense. Dealerships will keep running ads showing happy families in $50,000 SUVs. Banks will keep approving loans that shouldn't exist, but you don't have to participate in collective financial insanity just because everyone else is. Sometimes the smartest move is recognizing when the game is rigged and choosing not to play. You can drive something paid off while everyone else is stressed about their payment. You can have an emergency fund while your neighbor is one breakdown away from a payday loan. You can sleep through the night while the guy with the brand new truck is awake at 3 a.m. refreshing his bank account. That's not losing. That's winning a game nobody told you was being played. The next time you're sitting in that dealership parking lot staring at that window sticker, remember this. The price tag isn't just asking for money, it's asking for years of your life, thousands of hours of stress, and the freedom to make choices without checking your account first. Maybe that new car smell is worth it, but